Hello and welcome to Minus the Gym. I'm Ryan, and in this video we're going to be looking at a workout routine for older adults and seniors. So if you fall into that older age range and you've been wondering, how can I get started working out at home without even needing to go to a gym? Well, this video is for you. Before we get started, I just want to clarify what I mean by seniors and older adults. All right, seniors are anyone 65 years old and above, and older adults is referring to men 45 and older and women 55 and older. All right, but this video, although it's intended for the older populations, it can also help anyone. All right, so even if you're younger than these age ranges and you're coming from years of being sedentary and you just feel like every workout program out there is a little too advanced for you, give this workout a shot. You might find that it's right up your alley. The workout routine that we're going to look at in this video is a weekly schedule that includes 5 days of moderate intensity aerobic exercise, as well as a minimum of 2 days of resistance training, which means muscle strengthening exercises. Now, before we dive into the exercises and look at the weekly schedule, I just want to emphasize that if you are starting a workout program like from scratch and you've been living a sedentary lifestyle and you're in these older populations, I highly recommend checking with your doctor, just getting a normal checkup and getting the thumbs up before you start any exercise program. First, let's take a look at the aerobic exercise. It's recommended that older adults and seniors get at least 5 sessions of moderate intensity aerobic exercise per week. Now, what does that mean? What's moderate intensity? And what's light intensity for those who want to start off easier? Well, what we do in fitness is we take 220 and subtract your age from it. And that's going to give you what's called your max heart rate. So in the example that you are 65 years old, 220 minus 65 is 155. So you'd have a max heart rate of 155. And once you know your max heart rate, it's all based on percentages of that. So we would use, in this case, what's called zone 1 and zone 2 of your max heart rate. And that would be calculated by simply taking 50% and 70% of your max heart rate and then falling within that range. Once you've calculated your target heart rate, the 50 to 70% of your max heart rate, you can then buy a heart rate monitor if you really want to be precise and make sure you're staying within the target zones, zone 1 and zone 2. But to be honest, I mean, you can do that if you want. It's not completely necessary. Instead, what I would recommend doing is using what's called the talk test. With the talk test, while you do your aerobic exercise, you simply check if you're able to hold a conversation. So if you're with somebody while you're working out, just make sure you can have a conversation with them. If it's difficult to respond and to have a conversation because there's breaks in the conversation due to you being out of breath, then chances are you're creeping out of that target heart rate zone and you need to slow down a little bit. But if you're able to hold a conversation, then you're doing it right and you're staying within your target heart rate zone. So what type of aerobic exercise is recommended? Well, the most popular by far, because it's so accessible for most people, is walking. All right, brisk walking will get you right in this target heart rate zone, and it's something enjoyable that you can do with friends. You can walk around the neighborhood, you can walk your dog, things like that. So do that at least 5 mornings a week. But if for some reason you can't walk, maybe the weather outside would prevent you because there's ice on the ground or something, there's other things you can do. I actually highly recommend elliptical machines. If you want to make this part of your daily routine, getting a small elliptical for your home would be wonderful because that's very low impact. Okay, you're not even lifting your feet off the apparatus as you work out. So elliptical trainers are great. They're low impact. They can get you right in this target heart rate zone. But there's plenty of other options as well. One of them being pools, which I have one right behind me because I happen to be staying at an Airbnb. Swimming is also very low impact, and it's just so good on the joints, and it's great cardio exercise. So if you have a pool that you can go to in your community, swimming is another great option. Whatever you decide on, just make sure it's low impact and there's low risk of falling. And use the talk test to make sure that you can hold a conversation while you do it. Make your aerobic sessions at least 30 minutes in length, and again, 5 times a week. So this is what our schedule would look like so far, using a simple Monday through Friday kind of agenda for our aerobic training. It would be you wake up in the morning and you go for a 30 or longer minute walk every morning, Monday through Friday. And you're more than welcome to do that on Saturday and Sunday as well. Now, how about the resistance training? Okay, there's something called sarcopenia that happens where we start to lose muscle mass as we get older. This actually happens after age 30, but sarcopenia is specifically after age 50. And it can be most dramatic for women because women have lower testosterone levels. So as you're losing muscle mass, it becomes even more important to do muscle strengthening exercises, also known as resistance training, to try to maintain and rebuild that muscle mass.
Now let's take a look at the resistance exercises I recommend. And we'll start things off with core strengthening exercises. Kneel on a soft mat or carpeting with your hands on the floor directly beneath your shoulders. And what we're going to do here in this position is called quadruped limb raises. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to brace your core by sucking it in. All right, think about when you're putting on a tight pair of jeans and you're trying to suck it in a little bit so you fit in. That's exactly what you want to do. When you suck it in, you're contracting your transverse abdominis here along the lower outside edges of your abdomen, and that helps stabilize your core through any exercise you do. That's why we're working on the core first. Now, as you're contracting your transverse abdominis kneeling here, what you're going to do is limb raises. And the way you're going to do that is first we're going to start with the right hand, just gently raising that right hand right off the floor, keeping your arm as straight as possible. And when you do this, you're going to notice that you have to shift your weight over to the left side in order to maintain balance. Now make sure you do this carefully, but if you lose your balance, you can always just place your right hand right back down on the floor. You're going to hold that for 10 to 15 seconds and then switch sides, raising the left hand, shifting your weight over to the right side. Again, hold that position with your left hand raised off the floor for 10 to 15 seconds, then place it down, and then what we're going to do is raise the right knee off the floor. Again, you're going to find that you have to shift your weight over to the left side, and each time you lift a limb, you're going to notice that it's challenging your core in a different way. That's why we're going to rotate through all the different limbs. So after 10 to 15 seconds, you put your right knee down, and then it's time to raise the left knee. And after 10 to 15 seconds with that left knee and foot off the floor, then you are done with the set, and that's just one set. We're going to want to repeat this 3 or 4 times. Now, once you've been doing these for a while and you've built up some core strength, you can increase the challenge by doing what's called contralateral limb raises. This means you are raising the opposite leg and hand. So here you can see I have my right hand off the floor and my left knee and foot off the floor, and I'm extending my limbs completely. Hold that for 10 to 15 seconds, and then you'll put them down and you'll repeat doing the opposite sides. So then left hand and right leg off the floor. What's important here though is you remember to brace your core by sucking it in, and remember you'll want to do that on every exercise I show you. Next, we'll build our pushing strength, and we're going to do that with this exercise standing in front of a wall, arms fully extended and hands flat on the wall. Take a small step backwards and lean your weight forward towards the wall. Now what you're going to do is let your arms bend slightly at the elbows and slowly feel your shoulder blades come together as you let your face lower towards the wall. And then once your face is close to the wall, press off by extending the arms at the elbow and feeling your shoulder blades move apart. These are called wall push-ups. Perform these for reps, aiming to build up to 10 to 15 reps per set. And just like the last exercise, we want to do at least 3 and possibly 4 sets if you feel up for it. To make the exercise more challenging, you can place your hands on a tabletop or countertop and perform incline push-ups. With these, you have a smaller angle to the floor, and that makes it more difficult because of more resistance. And of course, once those get easy, you can always move to the floor. I recommend starting off your floor push-ups on your knees. So in a kneeling position, lean forward so the weight is on your hands and you're feeling it in your upper back and shoulders, and perform push-ups in this position. And once you get those up to 10 to 15 reps, you can then advance it by coming up onto your toes into a straight plank and performing push-ups in a standard form like this. After 3 to 4 sets of your pushing exercises for chest, shoulders, and arms, we want to move on to a pulling exercise to build pulling strength. Stand in front of a doorway and then raise your arms up so they're in the door frame. Externally rotate so your hands are facing outwards and you can grab onto the door jamb. And then what you're going to do is step your feet forward so your feet are right on the trim in the doorway. Here, you're going to let your elbows unbend, so you're extending your arms and leaning back so you feel a good stretch in your back. And from there, you're going to pull yourself up and forward into the doorway, and then extend back and pull forward. This exercise is called let me ins, and it's great for working the muscles of your upper back like the rhomboids, also the rear deltoids, and depending on your grip, possibly your lats and biceps too, like if you do this holding onto a railing or a fence post or something like that. Now notice here that I'm on my heels and then pulling forward to my toes, and then going back to my heels, pulling forward to my toes. That's important to keep in mind. When you lean back, you want to make sure you go completely on your heels, so there's maximum resistance for the exercise. Also, to make this exercise more difficult, you can step forward so that your feet are inside the door frame. Now you're kind of in the room that you're standing in front of, and that will add to the resistance. Along with that, you can also bend slightly at the knees to increase the resistance even further. Now, if the risk of falling backwards on these makes you hesitant, you can buy these. And these are a bag of color-coded resistance bands. And what's excellent is each one is a different level of resistance, so you find one that works for you. And what you can do is you can wrap it around a post or a railing or anything sturdy and perform exercises like these rows, which will work your upper back muscles, same as the let me ins. Additionally, you can also perform these rear delt flies with your arms extended to work the rear shoulders, and these are really versatile. You can actually do a lot of exercises with resistance bands, so they are well worth the investment. And now an exercise for your posterior strength, specifically the hamstrings and lower back. So stand in front of a chair holding onto the back of the chair. This will be there to catch you in case you fall forward. Raise your arms up so elbows are bent at 90 degrees, and hands are right to the side of your ears. That's all the prep work. Now to execute the exercise, what you want to do is bend forward, keeping your knees fairly straight, just a slight bend in the knees, and then raise your torso back up. These are called good mornings. What you're doing here is you're keeping your knees just slightly bent, mainly moving the hips back and bending forward so that you're using the muscles of your lower back and hamstrings to pull your torso upwards back to the starting position. As with all the resistance exercises I'm showing you in this video, perform 10 to 15 reps per set for 3 or 4 sets. And if you want to make this exercise more challenging as it gets easier, you can drop the hands to your sides and hold on to ordinary household objects to add weight. A good starting weight I would recommend is a 1-gallon jug of water in each hand. And while this exercise works your lower back and the hamstrings on the back of your thighs, we are now going to take a look at squatting exercises to work the rest of your lower body. Stand in front of a chair with your arms out in front of you and then sit down on it and stand back up. What you're doing here is you're squatting down, tapping the chair with your behind, and then standing right up. This is a squat, and notice that my knees are pretty close together here. My feet on the floor are out of frame, but they're just several inches apart, not too far apart. I'm also holding my arms straight out in front of me, and that encourages me to keep looking forward and even slightly upwards, which is ideal for when you're doing squats. Build these up to 10 to 15 reps for 3 or 4 sets. Try not to sit down completely on the chair, just sort of tap your butt on it and then stand up. And I also recommend working on different stances. Here you can see I'm doing a slightly wider stance. My feet are now maybe a couple feet apart, wider than shoulder width, and I'm performing the same exercises. The different stances will work your thigh muscles in different ways. And of course, once you've built up the strength and the confidence, you can remove the chair so it's no longer there to catch you. And the benefit of that is you can work on increasing your range of motion. So do partial squats and eventually increase the range of motion to deeper squats. And to make this exercise more challenging, hold ordinary household objects to add weight.
So those are the resistance training exercises that I recommend doing. And how often should you do them? Well, twice a week minimum. All right, so going back to our calendar, you'd be doing the aerobic training Monday through Friday and possibly Saturday and Sunday as well if you want. And then just for example, on Monday and Thursday, you would do the muscle strengthening workout that I just demonstrated for you. Now remember, twice a week is a minimum, so you could increase this to 3 times a week, as you get used to it. And that might look like something like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Monday, Thursday, Saturday kind of thing. Whatever works for you in your schedule, but just make sure that there are non-consecutive days. 10 to 15 reps per set, at least 3 sets per exercise, and make sure you take rests between every set, all right? You don't want to elevate your heart rate too much. So we're doing what's called station format, where you focus on one exercise at a time, and that's as opposed to circuit training, where you would do one exercise after another. We don't want to do that for older adults and seniors. You want to focus on one exercise at a time and make sure you take rests. Something I mentioned previously in this video, and I want to touch on a little more, is how great it can be to have a swimming pool to use for your exercise. Now, I typically don't have a pool, but this week we're staying at an Airbnb in Florida, and we have a pool here, so I'm using it, and it's great. Okay, swimming is great aerobic exercise. It's also resistance training. But you can do other things like water aerobics, and you can practice new movements in the water too. You see, the buoyancy of water not only acts as resistance for exercises, but also for assistance, meaning it can help you do movements that you're not typically able to do on land. So I know this kind of goes against the whole minus the gym thing and not relying on a gym or a other facility for your exercise, but in this case, I have to say, if you have like a YMCA or any kind of community pool nearby, I highly recommend getting in the water, getting a membership there and using it for your exercise, especially for older adults and seniors. It's absolutely amazing. It's easy on the joints and it's great resistance and aerobic exercise. Okay, and now we are in the kitchen of the Airbnb just to change up the setting a little bit. And I want to mention a couple more things before I end this video. I know it's already going to be a pretty long video, but if any of you go to the doctor for your checkup and you find that maybe you have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, pre-diabetic, or maybe you already have heart disease or type 2 diabetes and you're on medication, I wanted to give a shout out to Forks Over Knives. All right, that is really, what they are doing is just amazing. It's life-changing. They are a company that promotes a whole food, plant-based diet. They have a meal planner, which I have personally used, and I love it. I'll put a link down below if you want to check it out. But they have hundreds of testimonials on their website showing how this whole food, plant-based diet has helped people lose lots of weight, get off of their medications for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, all kinds of things you wouldn't even expect, like multiple sclerosis. They've been able to reverse all of these chronic diseases simply with diet. So if you're in that kind of situation where your health is already in a pretty bad situation and you've been looking for ways to reverse it and get off of your medications, check them out. All right, I'll put a link down below, and I just really want to promote them because I really like what they're doing. And last but not least, I want to show you a video of someone named Johanna Quass, and I'm probably mispronouncing her name. She is a German gymnast, but just a little bit of motivation for you. If you feel like, why start this late in the game, check this out. Johanna in this video is 91 years old. So how about that, all right? If you're feeling unmotivated, check out Johanna, and there's plenty of other people. I've had comments on my channel from people in their 70s doing more pull-ups than me, so age is just a number. It's never too late to get started, okay? If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please drop a like, hit that thumbs up button down below because that really helps me out. And don't forget to subscribe to Minus the Gym if you want to learn more, okay? I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.